Hi class. Today I'm going to read this article from Education Weekly called "Are Schools Responsible for Students Who Avoid School? A New Lawsuit Says Yes." And I think that this article will apply to many of you because it's going into the fact that a lot of students have different disabilities, and those disabilities are not met with as equal importance as issues that quote-unquote regular kids might experience, and that may affect your reading abilities. So let's get into this article. Follow along with me, and then I'll give my personal commentary on some of this as well. A group of parents are arguing that the New York City public schools are failing to provide adequate education and resources for their children with disabilities who are experiencing school avoidance in a federal class action filed this week. Okay, and they are going to explain what school avoidance means. I'm right here where you see the white arrow. The lawsuit filed Tuesday in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York against the New York City District alleges, or saying that they're accusing, that schools are not properly identifying and supporting students who are school avoidant due to school or emotional disabilities like severe anxiety and depression. School avoidance, also known as school refusal, means students have severe discomfort or fear about attending school or remaining there for a complete day of classes. Okay, so they have defined school avoidance right here. It says school avoidance, also known as school refusal, means students have severe discomfort or fear about attending school or remaining there for a complete day of classes. And I have been teaching as a substitute teacher for about 16 years in my area. And a lot of times that may be a lot for the regular kids who do not have disabilities. It's a long time for them to be in the classroom as well, to be in school for 7 to 8 hours, depending on what grade level that they're in. And they become very antsy. And this is even for so-called gifted kids. Sometimes it may be a long time for them. And some of the kids, they may get some recess time where they can just kind of run around outside and get some of that extra energy out of their system. But some of these special ed teachers, they may not allow some of the kids to go outside, or they may have a disability where they just have to stay seated the whole time. I don't know, they may be in a wheelchair, or some of them may not have the support that they need to take, the kids outside for recess and that sort of thing. So then the kids might not want to be in the classroom the whole time, or they just may be bored, I'm right here. The filing comes as nationally schools are grappling with a wave of chronic absenteeism, meaning that the kids aren't showing up for school, made worse by COVID-19 pandemic. Mental health challenges have soared for adolescents, meaning it's going up higher, it's increasing, more of whom report feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Though schools have increased mental health services in recent years, they face headwinds of shortages of mental health professionals and inconsistent funding. Meanwhile, special education has likewise been hard hit with staffing shortages and retention woes. Yeah, just like I mentioned, they don't have enough support, and some of the special ed kids are on a lot of medication, and they are confined to a room, what some may call a resource room, all day. And some of them, if they are unattended if there's a shortage on staff, then that child, if they're able to walk around, if they're not in a wheelchair, then they might get up and run outside of the school into the street and risk, not to their knowledge, but risk getting hit by a car or anything and become a school liability. So, there's lots of issues going on in the classroom systems, and some of them, like they said, are experiencing depression, and they're on all kinds of medications. So there's a lot of factors here that they have to consider. Okay, so let's skip here. Lawyers believe this could be the first class action on school avoidance. In New York City, meaning like a class action lawsuit, meaning like several parents are getting together at this particular school in New York and deciding to take action because they've gotten tired of the situation not being handled for the betterment of their child. Right here. In New York City, the lawyers representing the families argue that chronic absenteeism has increased in the nation's largest district by nearly 10 percentage points since before the pandemic, meaning before COVID, to 31.7% of students missing 10% or more of school for both excused and unexcused reasons during the 2023 school year. So they're talking about last year because they've got the records from last year, okay? Because this school year is still taking place, so that's why they're looking at the previous year. It was higher for students with disabilities, where nearly half, 46%, were chronically absent or constantly absent in 2023. One reason for the high absenteeism rate is school avoidance. So a lot of the kids, they're not wanting to go to school. They're not wanting to go to school, so we need to find solutions to that. It is fundamentally an equity access issue, said Jeffrey Metzler, a partner at Pillsbury Winthrop. Okay, let's get this part. It says right here, schools need to adapt to that rise and provide access to students. So yes, the schools, they need to provide access to what's needed for that child's education when they're avoiding school, when they're not coming to school. They still have to learn. So the schools, they need to make that a priority and figure something out. Now I'm right here. In a statement, a New York City district spokesperson said the school system is committed to reducing or making it less, reducing barriers for attendance and providing resources to students experiencing school refusal. They have invested in school-based attendance teams and professional development for staff. Okay, so this is their solution for right now. School-based attendance teams. Okay, so I guess that would mean that they have people who are becoming immediate when someone is not there, and then they have particular steps that the school-based attendance teams need to take to encourage that child and their parents to have their child to come to school. Okay, what the specifics are on that, I don't know, because they have not listed that. They just said they have the teams, school-based attendance teams. They also have professional development for staff. So whoever those special ed teachers are, they have some other staff members who have been teaching a long time to provide them with further education on the steps that they need to take to continue to teach that child and educate that child, whether they're avoiding school or not, because the child still has a right to learn. Okay, because these are medical reasons why the special ed children, in this case in New York, are not attending school. So they have to still find a way to educate that child. They have a right to education. Right here. We know that this is an issue among our most vulnerable students, including students with individualized education programs. And as such, we provide instructional supports, paraprofessional services, and a paraprofessional is like a one-on-one, kind of like a nurse almost, but it's more like a person that will make certain that that child is doing their work in the classroom. I've done some paraprofessional work as well, similar to that as a substitute. And mental health services based on students' individual needs, the spokesperson said. So that goes back to the students' accommodations or their individual needs. So they are working on resolving this issue, especially with the lawsuit. It's a shame that a lawsuit has to come into play here before actual steps are taken to help the children in some cases. That's very unfortunate because whether the issue is escalated to going into a courtroom or not, it should be of an utmost importance for each child to get educated and to be treated as they are the most important individual at the school. And that's for every school, not just this school here in New York, but the school that some of your children and grandchildren go to, the school that you went to. And some of you all were not treated as a priority, and that may be why you are struggling now as well to learn to read, because some of you have disabilities where your needs, your accommodations were not met, and so you may have avoided school as well. I'm right here. School avoidance causes cascading effect for families. The complaint calls on the city's schools to implement or to begin working on a process that identifies, evaluates, means that they're running some sort of testing, and establishes a program to assist students with school avoidance. Though the district identifies students who are chronically absent or constantly absent and investigates to see if it is a matter of neglect. So they're wondering if they're talking about neglect, then they could be saying neglect on the side of the teachers, the school as a whole, the school system as a whole, or maybe the parents. So they just use the general word neglect, so that could be looked at three different ways. The lawyers maintain that the system doesn't adequately address other causes of chronic absence outside of neglect. So I'm thinking that if the parents are bringing this lawsuit and accusing that the schools be responsible, then I'm certain that they're looking at the neglect coming from the school system as a whole, because it says the lawyers maintain that the system, meaning the school system, is where the neglect is where the accusation is taking place with the school system. Okay? The lawyers maintain that the system doesn't adequately address other causes of chronic absence outside of neglect. Okay? So they're just saying neglect, but that other reasons could be the cause as well. Right here, the lawyers are hoping the case will force the city's schools to adopt a systemic solution, meaning a solution system-wide, not just at this one school in New York, but all over, making sure the administration is tracking chronically absent students, particularly those with known disabilities and those who have or are in the process of getting evaluated or tested for an IEP. An IEP means that they have a lawyer in place and that they have particular testing that student has to pass in order to be considered for an IEP. and there's more of a structure geared towards that particular student's disability, so that that student makes certain that student is learning and not just being looked over or being ignored in the classroom, but they're actually learning on their mental and physical level in relation to that child's particular disability. And when those needs aren't met, then the lawyers come into play. Okay? And then developing strategies and services to get students back to school. Okay? So the 4 students in the complaint, whose ages range from 10 to 16, have received diagnoses such as agoraphobia, major depressive disorder, social anxiety disorder, autism spectrum disorder, and attention deficit or hyperactivity. Okay? I'm not too sure of what agoraphobia is, but for the sake of, let's see. Oh, agoraphobia is a type of anxiety disorder. Okay. That might cause panic, feelings of being trapped. Okay. Okay, let's get back to what we were on. Right here. One student began experiencing school avoidance in 2018 and allegedly went the entire 2022-2023 school year without a school placement. That's a shame. So, that child wasn't learning anything. Another student's school's counselor allegedly suggested her parents drive her to school each day. Her parents, who were both employed full-time, would remain outside the school for up to 2 hours until she ultimately stopped attending altogether. That's hard on parents who are working full-time, to have to do all that extra monitoring and driving the child to school. And how do they balance that with their full-time jobs? That's really tough to have to do that. A separate student received small incentives, meaning like little presents from their school for attending classes, a small prize awarding attendance, and a set of headphones. Okay, let's skip that. Okay. Alright, so I don't want this video to get too long. But let me just start. Let's see, let me read this last section. It's only these little paragraphs here, and then I'll be done. School avoidance has long flown under the radar, meaning that it's been happening a long time and nothing being done about it. Right here. It's a light bulb moment to see a spotlight on school avoidance, which often is under the radar, said Jane Dembski, the founder of the School Avoidance Alliance. Dembski was promoted to start the organization, which provides interventions and resources to help schools and parents navigate school refusal after she experienced the issue with her own child. Okay, so some of you can click on this, and then it'll open up more information for anyone interested. School avoidance, she said, is usually caused by a mental health disorder or learning difference, coupled with contributing factors at school. Schools often don't have the staff, meaning the workers, or the funding, the finances, the money, to properly identify and support students who are experiencing this. Parents are isolated because many don't understand what school avoidance is. So the parents are often not receiving support either. So if the parents are not receiving the support to help their child, the teacher is not receiving the support because there's not enough, they're not properly educated on what to do, and then it becomes a systemic problem. There's not even enough staff members there to help as well. So it's a trickling down effect. When one thing is out of order, then it affects everything else. Okay, almost finished. Think of being a parent and walking into your child's bedroom in the morning and not knowing what's going to happen. If they're going to hide, if they're going to cry or scream, Dembski said. And they're saying that because a lot of times special ed students are very emotional, okay, depending on their disability, especially if they have a mental disability. And they might have those emotions where they're screaming or crying and the parent doesn't know how to handle their child. Then your school is calling you. The robo, meaning the AI in this case, the robo calls or automatic calls with the principal saying, where is your child? If a parent doesn't know that there's something called school avoidance, they're ditching the phone calls or ignoring the phone calls, not calling the principal back, not calling the school back to let them know what's going on. They're just ignoring the situation and letting their child stay at home. They think there's something wrong. Tackling school avoidance can't fall just to the parents or be a piecemeal effort with a number of educators and a few schools, the lawyers argue. Okay? So they're saying that it doesn't just fall to the parents. Okay, so they're looking to make the others at the school responsible, accountable for the school avoidance that's taking place with these students. And that's rightfully so, because the parents, they need support. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So it's the parent's child, but still the teachers are being paid to help the students, and the principal has a job to make certain that each child is being prepared for education properly, so that when they graduate high school on down the line, then they can be a contributing member of society, and so that that child will be able to support themselves and just have basic understanding on their mental and physical ability as a special ed child. Okay, and this is the last part. Right now, by them ignoring it at the central level, meaning ignoring school avoidance, it's pushing the responsibility down onto schools, often an individual guidance counselor, so the guidance counselor is being blamed. Then that gets pushed down onto the parents. When the guidance counselor is unable to find an adequate solution, Metzler said, when you're looking at a problem at this scale, 46% of students with disabilities are chronically absent. There's got to be a systemic solution to that. And I agree. So they need to find, when they say a systemic solution, they mean they need to find a solution. You see the word system. This is the word system, S-Y-S-D-E-M, and they call it public school system. Okay, and this has been a problem going on for years and years. I remember when I was in school, for whatever reason, it was always the same ones that would skip class. And for all I know, some of them might have had some mental issues going on or some emotional issues. Some of them might have been special ed students. And sometimes some students just skip class because their parents would leave them at home as what we would call back in the day a latchkey kid. where the parents would be at work and the child had the keys to the house, and if the parents had to leave out early and the child was responsible for getting themselves to school, then sometimes they went to school, sometimes they didn't. But in this case, they're talking about IEP special ed students who have mental, physical, and emotional disabilities, and their needs are not being met, and the parents are being tired of not receiving the care that they need so very much for their child, because their child matters too and is very important as well. And you all matter and are very important as well. So I want you to know if you experience any of these issues with your learning to read, from dealing with school avoidance, from any disabilities that you might have had, or whether you just had some other reasons why you might have been avoiding school as one reason for your having difficulty learning to read, or being behind in your reading, then I definitely sympathize with that, and I hope that you are learning from the videos on this channel, Adult Literacy and English Language, and reach out to me if you would like to discuss it further in the comment section below. That would be wonderful. I would like to hear from you if you experienced any reasons why you did not like going to school, and if you feel like that has something to do with your having difficulty learning to read now. If you want to share that information in the comment section, let's get the dialogue going. I think it would help to discuss it, and if I can become more knowledgeable myself on what some of your learning disabilities are, and it will help me to become a better reading teacher as well. So I have to have knowledge myself on how to best help you. All right. Please give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, Adult Literacy and English Language. I thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Share this video on link on your social media with someone who you know is learning to read. I thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one, Lord willing. Thanks for listening. Bye.